sleeps!
And this week has been absolutely insane.
We finally have an open source GPT-4o image generator and editor. This open source AI is really good at medical analysis. We have an AI that's gonna kill my job. It can make full explainer videos. Anthropic released their long-awaited model, Claude 4, and it seems to be really good at coding. Google dropped some massive AI updates during their I/O event this week. This study finds that AI has way higher emotional intelligence than humans. Microsoft also released a ton of super helpful open source tools and a lot more, so let's jump right in. First up, we have an open source GPT-4o image generator. So this is called BAGEL by Bytedance, and they've released the models to everything already. Now, this is basically a multimodal language model like GPT-4o. You can talk to it like a chatbot, but you can also prompt it to generate images, or prompt it to edit images, or ask it questions about images. In other words, it has visual understanding. So here are some examples. You can use this just like a regular chat. So if you upload this and then you write, "Tell me about this picture," this is its answer. And then you can prompt it further by asking it, "Can you tell me more about the artist of the sculpture?" And then this is the answer. Here's another example. So if we upload this pretty blurry old image and we ask, "The man presenting the award in the lower left corner is which person in the picture above? What does he look like and what is his name?" So here it answers, "The man presenting the award over here is the fourth person in the picture above," which is this guy, which is correct. He is wearing a dark suit and glasses and looks older. His name is Mr. Fowler, as you can see from the caption over here. And then you can also get it to describe this photo in detail, and that's what it proceeds to do. Here's another example showing its visual understanding capabilities. So if you upload this and then you ask it to solve X, it actually does this. Or if you upload this picture and you ask how to cook this dish, it will indeed give you instructions on how to prepare this pie. Or you can also upload this image and ask it to give a short introduction to this movie, and it correctly identifies that this is The Godfather, directed by etc., etc., and it gives you some info on this movie. Now, chat is just basic stuff. It can do way more than that. So just like GPT-4o, you can also prompt BAGEL to generate images. So here, if the prompt is a photo of 3 antique glass magic potions, with the first one labeled XDXL, the second is red with the label BAGEL, the third one is green with the label Flux, that is indeed what we get. So not only is it really good at prompt understanding, but it's also really good at rendering text in images. Or here's another crazier example. If you get it to create a 3D animation of a small round fluffy creature with big expressive eyes in this enchanted forest, that is exactly what it does. Now this can't create video, but it can create images frame by frame. And if you stitch all these images together, you kind of get this animation. How cool is that? Here's another really tricky prompt. Here is a macro photography of a strawberry intricately sculpted into the shape of a hummingbird in mid-flight. And indeed, this is a strawberry that's sculpted like a hummingbird in mid-flight, as it sips nectar from a vibrant tubular flower. Here's another example which a lot of image generators cannot get correct. So here, the prompt is, "A cat stands in front of a mirror staring at itself, but on the other side of the mirror, it's actually a snow leopard with a vast snowfield and distant mountains in the background." And it was able to understand this prompt very well. Now, BAGEL can do way more than just generating images. You can also edit existing images. Let's say you upload this image and you prompt it with, "He squatted down and touched a dog's head." That is indeed what we get. Or if we upload this and we write, "She picked up a piece of paper with BAGEL number 1 written on it," this is what we get. Or you can make her hold a rabbit and stroke it tenderly. And indeed, it adds a cute rabbit over here. Notice that for the rest of the photo, like this poodle design on her shirt, it keeps it consistent with the original photo. Here, if you prompt it with, "Could you display how this fabric appears unrolled?" Notice that it can also think through its answer, like DeepSeek R1 and most other state-of-the-art models, before giving you a response. And this allows it to ponder longer and give you better answers. Anyways, after thinking for a bit, it indeed gives you this image of the fabric unrolled. Very impressive. Here's an even crazier example. So let's say you upload this image, and then if you write, can you demonstrate the colors on skin? It actually outputs this where it demonstrates what all of these makeup powders would look like on skin. Or here you can get Mona Lisa to lean forward, chin resting on folded hands. And of course, you can also do this for clothes swapping or virtual try-on. So let's say you have this shirt. If you get it to display this being worn while cycling, here is what you get. Notice even like the logo and the overall design of the shirt looks exactly like the reference photo. You can also easily replace objects. So here we can replace the dog with a little boy. And of course, we can also use this to remove watermarks. So here, if we have a watermark, well, we can just prompt it to remove the watermark, and here is what we get. Now, just like GPT-4o, Bagel is also amazing at style transfer. So we can upload this image and then change it into 3D animated style, and here is what we get. Or we can upload this and change it into Japanese anime style, and here is our result. Or you can turn her into a Jellycat plush toy, like this. Here's another example where we can turn this photo into clay style, like this. Or we can turn this into Ghibli style, and we get this. Here are some other cool effects you can do with this. If you input this image and you get it to rotate the camera, it will proceed to generate a series of images viewing this scene at different angles, as if you're rotating the camera. Or here, if we upload this image and then you write move forward left, here is what we get. So it can kind of simulate what this would look like if we move forward and left for 0.4 seconds. And then if we take this output and then we write after 0.15 seconds, look left, let's see what that gives us. Indeed, it rotates left, and that's what it does. So you can keep repeating this, and it can generate frames of this scene, kind of like how you would navigate using Street View in Google Maps. A pretty cool effect. Here's another example, but instead of a real photo, we're using this Minecraft scene. So let's click Generate, and this is what we get. Now, of course, with all these capabilities, you can combine them together to be super creative and productive. So first of all, if you generate this ethereal fairy or elf, this is what you get. And then you can turn her into a plush toy like this. And then you can write, I want to promote this doll to kids. Can you help me come up with a catchy slogan? And this is what it gives you. And because it has this thinking feature, it can also reason more in depth and do like step-by-step thinking. So for example, if you want to create an image of an animal with 7 + 2 lives, can you generate the prompt for me? So first it needs to figure out, all right, what is this crazy human even talking about? And it figures out that the user wants to generate an animal with 9 lives, which in popular culture refers to cats. And then here is the prompt that it gives us. And then if we input the prompt, it will actually generate an image of a cat surrounded by 9 heart symbols, as specified here, and there are indeed 9 hearts. You can also change this into 3D real style, or you can also get the cat to lie down like this. You can also add handwritten words, sleepy kitty, like this. The nice thing is they've released everything already for you to download and use offline for free. So all the models are available on Hugging Face, plus on their GitHub repo. This contains all the instructions on how to download and use this on your computer. If you're wondering about VRAM requirements, unfortunately it doesn't actually specify this anywhere in their documentation. Anyways, all the links are up here, so if you're interested, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this AI is super powerful. It's called MTVCrafter, and this can take a reference photo of any character, plus a reference video of someone else moving, and it can basically transfer over the movements onto the reference character. Here's another example. So it even works with this like flat vector art style, and it even works with multiple characters. So it seems like if you upload 4 characters in your reference photo, it actually moves all of them kind of in sync. Here's yet another example. And this also works pretty well with 3D animated characters like this. Really quickly, here's how it works. So your reference video is first converted into this 3D motion data. It then goes through this 4D motion tokenizer, which breaks down the motion data into smaller chunks. These chunks are then fed through this motion-aware video model to basically map the movements onto your reference character and create a new video. Now that being said, the quality of these generations aren't great. I've shown you much better quality tools like Vase by Alibaba, where you can upload a reference video and transfer the movements onto a new video. And this gives you absolute control over how you want the characters to move in your generations. In fact, if you're interested in learning more, definitely see this video where I do a full installation tutorial. So back to this MTVCrafter, the quality isn't like state of the art, but they have open sourced everything, so it's still worth a quick share. If you click on their GitHub repo, it contains instructions on how to use this. All the links are up here, so I'll link to this main page in the description below if you're interested in reading further. Next up, this study is super interesting. They tested the leading AI models and found that on average they have higher emotional intelligence, or EQ, than humans. So they looked at these 6 models: GPT-4, o1, Gemini 1.5 Flash, Copilot 365, Claude 3.5 Haiku, and DeepSeek version 3. Notice that these are such old models. I mean, we are already at 2.5 Pro now, and GPT 4.1. So these are super old models, but yet they found that even these models outperformed humans on standard EQ tests. They achieved an average score of 81% compared to human participants, which only scored 56%. The AI models not only excelled at selecting the most emotionally intelligent answers, but they were also able to generate new, reliable EQ tests that were really good quality. In fact, you couldn't really tell these tests apart from questions that were generated by human experts. There's a lot more technical details here, but those were the main findings of this report. And this suggests that AI could be super effective in tasks that involve emotional intelligence. For example, it can outperform humans in roles like coaching or therapy or conflict resolution. I mean, why pay hundreds of dollars to see a therapist or psychiatrist when you can just talk to an AI instantly, and it's even more emotionally intelligent than humans on average? Anyways, those were the main findings. As with all scientific articles, it's really technical and quite a pain to read, but if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this article in the description below. Next up, this AI is really powerful. It's called UniVGR1, and this is a new vision language model that's really good at visual analysis. So here are some examples. Let's say you input these 4 images and you ask it to find the common object and locate it in the 4th image. Well, the common object among these 3 images is the zebra, and indeed it locates the zebra in the 4th image. Or here, if you ask it to find a white truck with a crane on top and you give it all 4 images, it can identify the white truck over here. It's also good at spotting the difference between 2 images. Or you can also upload 1 image and get it to locate that in a 2nd image. Here's yet another example. It's also good with reasoning. So if you ask it which furniture can deal with the object in image 1, well, the only thing here that can deal with laundry is, of course, this. So that is indeed what it has identified. Or here's another tricky one. See the creative girl in image 1. Which object in image 2, either 1, 2, or 3, can best reflect her characteristics? Find it and locate it in image 2. Notice that it incorporates deep thinking in its answering process, much like DeepSeek R1 and other state-of-the-art models. So it takes some time and compute to actually think through its answer before giving you a response. And from doing that, it performs a lot better in complex visual analysis tasks. And finally, it has identified that the correct answer should be number 3, the piece of drawing over here. Note that other vision models were unable to get this correct. Now, all these tasks might seem pretty basic, but if you compare this new model, UniVGR1, with existing vision language models of a similar size, note that it outperforms all of them across all these benchmark scores. That is how good this is. Now, here are some details on its architecture. So this is actually based on Qwen2VL, which is an open source vision model by Alibaba, but they fine-tuned it further using 2 stages. In the first stage, they used chain of thought supervised fine-tuning, where they basically fed it examples of reasoning steps used to solve a particular visual analysis problem. And after feeding it a ton of this data, it's now way better at actually thinking through these complex visual tasks and solving the problem. And then in the next stage, it also goes through this reinforcement learning step where it's basically put through this feedback loop. If it gets the answer correct, it would receive a reward. If it gets it wrong, then it wouldn't receive any reward. And its policy or its goal is to basically maximize the reward. So after doing those fine-tuning steps, we get a model UniVGR1, which is significantly better than the base model, Qwen2, and the rest of these vision models. So this training process might be useful in improving the performance of visual models even more. And note that they've only used Qwen2 VL, but we already have Qwen 2.5 VL. So maybe we could also apply this same step to Qwen 2.5 and make it even better. Anyways, the nice thing is they've released the models on Hugging Face already for you to download and use and fine-tune further. All the links are up here, plus it looks like they have a free online demo coming soon. So I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Speaking of AI tools, you have to check out Skywork Super Agents, the sponsor of this video. This is a suite of AI workspace agents designed to help you automate work and make you way more productive. You can get Skywork to search the web and do deep research and generate a variety of outputs, including reports, sheets, slides, web pages, and podcasts. According to this Gaia agent benchmark, Skywork is even better than OpenAI's Deep Research or Manus. Here are some insane examples. You can get it to analyze stocks. For example, here it's analyzing Nvidia, and look how thorough the report is. Or you can also get it to generate a beautiful slide presentation of Iceland's natural wonders. And here is our result. Look how detailed and aesthetic this looks. You don't need to manually make any of this. Or you can easily feed it any data and Skywork will handle the analysis. You can see here it has formatted the data nicely into an Excel spreadsheet, which you can edit or export. Skywork also integrates with a ton of MCPs, allowing the agent to leverage other apps for even more capabilities. For example, it can retrieve and analyze documents, make music or voiceovers, generate videos, and more. This is an extremely powerful platform that will supercharge your productivity. Be sure to check out Skywork Super Agents via the link in the description or the pinned comment below. In humanoid robot news, a few weeks ago I mentioned that China is going to host the first ever robot fighting tournament at the end of this month. And it's going to be 4 teams where each team will teleoperate a robot. In other words, they're going to get the robots to fight via remote control. And it seems like that event is going to happen this Sunday. While the tournament has not happened yet, here's a new clip that surfaced from a trade show in Hangzhou, which gives us a preview of 2 robots fighting it out. Anyways, this is just a cute sneak peek of what to expect from the tournament, which is supposed to happen tomorrow. Also this week, Google held their I/O event, and they announced some monster AI updates. This includes Veo 3, which is hands down the best video generator out there, and it can even natively generate audio with the video. Plus, they released Imagen 4, which is one of the best image generators out there, and you can generate images of up to 2K in resolution. Plus, it's really good at generating text and typography, so you can generate comics like this, just like OpenAI's GPT-4o. Plus, they also have a free coding agent called Jules and a free UI design platform called Stitch. And they've released a super realistic real-time AI assistant, which you can talk to or even share your camera and ask it questions. Anyways, they've released a ton of stuff, and I already did a full video on it, so I'm not going to repeat any of this here. See this video if you want to learn more. However, in addition to those updates, here are some additional things that I did not mention in the last video that are just as mind-blowing. First of all, you might be familiar with NotebookLM, which is Google's free platform where you can upload documents or websites or videos for it to analyze. So here's an example. Let's open up a new notebook, and then you can either upload a document here or choose from Google Drive or even link to a YouTube video. So actually, I'm just going to paste in the YouTube video on Google's latest updates and then click insert. And the AI would basically analyze the video or whatever you uploaded and summarize everything into easy to read notes. And you can ask it follow-up questions. So for example, which tool can be used for UI design? And then it would give you the relevant answer. So in our case, indeed, the tool that can help us with UI design is called Stitch, and then here are more details about it. Now, the most useful feature in this NotebookLM platform is this audio overview feature. If I press generate, it actually converts your document or video or whatever you uploaded into a podcast. So there's going to be two hosts explaining all this information. And this is really effective, especially if you're an audio learner. All right, and after waiting a few minutes, here is the podcast. So I'm just going to play you like the first few minutes of this so you can see how impressive this is.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving straight into a whole load of AI news from Google's latest I/O event. Lots happening.
Yeah, a lot. We've got some really interesting stuff to unpack, mostly pulling from a detailed YouTube breakdown that gave a great first look at these new tools.
Exactly. And for you, the learner, our mission, as always, is to kind of cut through the noise.
All right, so that was just their audio overview. This is nothing new. We've had this feature for months now. But here's the crazy thing. Google also announced a new feature called Video Overviews. So instead of just generating an audio-only podcast, it can now take whatever you upload and generate a full explainer video from that. So here's an example of a video overview that was generated by feeding it the keynote of Google's I/O event.
All right, everyone, welcome. We're diving straight into a super quick explainer, hitting all the biggest, most exciting announcements from Google I/O 2025. Seriously, there's a lot to cover, so let's jump right in.
You know, Sundar Pichai really nailed the theme for this year. It's all about this massive shift, where like decades of AI research aren't just theories anymore. Nope, they're becoming actual products and tools that people, businesses, and whole communities can get their hands on. And it's happening at an incredible rate.
And when I say incredible rate, I truly mean relentless. Just look at this timeline. It really paints a picture, doesn't it? Across the top, you can see how the models and research have been progressing from Gemini Live back in mid-2024 all the way to Gemma 3 and AlphaFold 3 in early 2025. And then right below that, bam, you see how all that research translates into actual products and features. The pace of these releases is just wow. It's a crystal clear example of innovation speeding up like crazy.
And if you want to talk about adoption, get this. Check out the monthly tokens processed. We've rocketed from 9.7 trillion last April to over 480 trillion this April. That's almost a 50 times increase. Can you believe that? AI isn't just knocking on the door. It's here, it's moved in, and it's scaling up big time.
So what's on the docket for our lightning tour today? Well, we're going to hit the big updates for the Gemini models, then see how search and shopping are basically being reinvented. After that, we'll dive into how AI is fueling creativity and making learning way smarter. Then a little peek into the future with Android XR and Google Beam, and we'll wrap things up with the new Google AI plans. Sound good? Let's go.
Okay, first up, Gemini.
Oh my god. As you can see from this tool, I'm totally screwed. There's going to be a point in time where eventually I'm going to be completely obsolete. If you can just plug any document into this platform, like your lecture notes or the latest AI news or documentation on how to install some software, and get it to generate a full explainer video for you in minutes, I mean, why even watch my YouTube videos anymore? I am so cooked. Now, fortunately, I think I have a few months of runway left, so they haven't announced any public release date for this yet. As of now, they only showed us a preview of what this feature can generate. Anyways, on to other less depressing news. Here's another super useful open source tool just released by Google. It's called MedGemma, and this is an AI specifically designed for medical analysis. It's based on the Gemma 3 architecture, so this is a small language model that can be run on most consumer devices. And MedGemma is fine-tuned further to do really well in terms of medical image and text analysis. It comes in two main variants. We have a 4 billion parameter model and a 27 billion parameter model. Note that the 4 billion one is multimodal, so it's capable of processing both medical text and images. It's trained on a diverse dataset of medical images, so for example, it can interpret things like radiology scans, pathology slides, and dermatology photos. In fact, let's go over a quick demo. If we upload this chest x-ray scan, here are its findings. And even if you're not a doctor or a medical professional, you can actually click on each one, and the AI would explain each part in easy to understand terms. So it looks like from this chest x-ray, it didn't identify this, but it did identify this right pleural effusion with right bacillar whatever this is. And if we don't know what that means, we can just click on this and understand it further. Here's another x-ray scan. In this case, it has identified this lung infection. So if you have no idea what heterogeneous opacities with mixed interstitial opacities are, then again, you can just click on this and the AI will explain what this is in simple terms. Or here's another x-ray scan, and here it has identified yet another issue. Here's another one, and here's another one. Now, instead of x-ray scans, it can also analyze CT scans like this. And from this, the AI has magically detected this endobronchial tumor. Oh my goodness. So if you click on this, it has identified that the mass in the right middle lobe is pushing against the bronchus or the airway and is growing into the bronchus, etc., etc. Anyways, that's just a quick demo. The models are available for you to download and use locally for free. Now, in addition to this 4 billion parameter model, we also have this 27 billion parameter model. And note that this one is text only, so it cannot analyze images. This is optimized for deep medical comprehension and reasoning. So this is particularly useful for things like clinical decision or medical summarization or patient interviewing. And like I said, the awesome thing is these are all open source. It's already available on Hugging Face for you to download and even fine-tune further with your own data for specific use cases. And because these are small language models, I mean the image analysis one is only 4 billion parameters, you can run this on most consumer or edge devices offline. You don't need to connect to the cloud, or you don't need like massive data centers to run these AI models. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this page in the description below. Here's yet another extremely helpful tool that Google released. It's called LearnLM, and you can access it right now on Gemini. So over here, if you expand the menu and you click on Explore Gems and you expand this, it's kind of hidden over here. So this is a gem called Learning Coach, and if you click on this, note that it's powered by LearnLM. It's still based on Google's Gemini models, but this is fine-tuned for education and learning. So for example, let's enter a topic like, how does photosynthesis work? And let's press enter. So you can see first, it's going to break this down into a learning plan. Ready to dive in? Sure. And then it explains what photosynthesis is, and then it asks, would you like to try a quick activity? So I would say yes. All right, and now it's asking me a test question. So you can go on and on, but that's basically the gist of LearnLM. Note that as of now, LearnLM is already available on the Gemini platform, but you might need to subscribe to their Pro plan to access this. However, note that if you are a student, you actually get free access to the Pro plan for, I think, a year. Plus, right now, it seems like you even get a limited trial of VO3 and you get access to Flow, which is their AI video editor. You just need to receive a verification code through your school email. So definitely take advantage of this free offer if you're a student. Now note that you can also just ask a regular chatbot about photosynthesis, and it can also answer that. But LearnLM is specifically trained with education best practices, so in theory, you should learn better and faster. And notice that not only does it just answer my question, but it always suggests next steps. So for example, here it's asking if I want to try a quick activity, etc., etc. So it's more proactive than just a regular chatbot. Here's another really cool feature which you might have missed. So they've now added interactive quizzes on Gemini. For example, you can either feed it your lecture notes and get it to generate a quiz from that, or let's try typing create a practice quiz on thermodynamics. Afterwards, it's going to think for a while, and then you're going to get this. an interactive 10-question quiz on thermodynamics. How cool is that? It even has hints for you. Now, I have no idea what the first answer is, but let's try this one. So that is not correct. Here is the correct answer. Let's click next, and then let's try answering this one, and then next again. So that's how interactive quizzes work. This is a really effective way for you to test yourself for an upcoming exam or learn more effectively. Again, this is all in Google's Gemini platform already. Also this week, Anthropic, which has been quite silent for the past few months, finally dropped their latest model, Claude 4. And this is their most intelligent, most performant model to date. And they've actually released 2 variants of this: Claude Opus 4 and Claude Sonnet 4. Now, Opus is the larger model, so it's more performant, and it's designed to handle more complex problem-solving and reasoning tasks. It's mostly useful for STEM-related subjects like coding, science, and math. And then Claude Sonnet is a lighter weight and faster model designed for everyday use. Both models have a hybrid reasoning system, which offers 2 modes. The regular mode gives you instant responses, or you can turn on their extended thinking feature for deeper reasoning. This is of course useful for more complex tasks. Both models can also use additional tools like web search, code execution, and file analysis when they respond. It can also multitask and use different tools in parallel at the same time. The nice thing is Claude Sonnet 4 is available for you to use right now, even on the free plan. So if you click on this drop-down, you can see that I have Claude Sonnet 4. Just a reminder, this is the lighter weight and less performant model. And note that this does not include the extended thinking feature. To use that feature or Claude Opus 4, which is the more powerful model, you do need to subscribe to at least their Pro plan, which at the time of this recording is $17 per month. Next, let's look at their reported benchmarks. Now, I think the aim of Anthropic isn't to build the best all-rounded model like Gemini, but to build the best model for software engineering. So Claude is trained to do particularly well for coding tasks. As you can see, here are the scores for the SWE-bench benchmark. Notice these additional lighter colors up here indicate its performance if you turned on its deep thinking feature. And at least according to this, it does beat OpenAI's O3 and Gemini 2.5 Pro. Now do take this with a grain of salt because these are their self-reported benchmarks, and note that this is just one coding benchmark, SWE-bench. They also did not include O3 High, which is a more performant model, nor did they include Deep Think mode for Gemini 2.5, even though they've included their own scores for turning on deep thinking. Here are some other benchmarks for your comparison. Note that it's only good at some coding tasks like this SWE-bench and terminal bench, where even the non-thinking modes do outperform OpenAI's O3 and Gemini 2.5 Pro. As soon as you look at other tasks like graduate level reasoning, note that even for Opus, the biggest model, for its non-thinking mode, it actually performs worse than OpenAI's O3 and Gemini 2.5 Pro. It's only slightly better if you add thinking to it. But then they also didn't report how good Gemini would be after adding Deep Think, which I expect would be even better. Same with visual reasoning. It kind of sucks compared to other models. And after some of my initial tests, I do have to say I'm not too impressed by Claude 4. It seems to me that Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro is still the best all-rounded model, and Claude 4 is just marginally better for some coding tasks. And then here are some other benchmark scores from independent evaluators. So here's one called LiveBench by Abacus AI. Note that even for Claude Opus with its thinking capabilities, it's not as good as O3 High. Same with Claude 4 Thinking, it's not as good as O3 Medium. And then Gemini 2.5 Pro is all the way down here. Note that if you turn off thinking, then Claude 4 Opus is all the way down here, even behind Gemini 2.5 Flash, DeepSeek R1, and Qwen 3. Here's another leaderboard by Artificial Analysis. Note that as of now, they only have the intelligence score for Claude 4 Opus. I'm sure they're working hard to add in the other models, but note that Claude 4 Opus is behind some of the models that have existed for months already, such as DeepSeek R1 or Qwen 3 or even Grok 3 Mini. So, Claude 4 isn't too impressive in terms of overall intelligence. Now, if you look at the pricing, then Claude 4 is definitely number one. The most expensive, that is. So for Claude 4 Opus, this isn't even the thinking model. Notice that it costs, on average, $30 per 1 million tokens. That's insanely more expensive than the rest of these models. I mean, Anthropic has been the most expensive models to use via their API, plus it's closed source, and now with Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro, or even OpenAI's O3 and O4 models, I don't really see any good reason to use Anthropic, especially if you want to be cost effective. Anyways, as before, I'm going to take these few days to thoroughly test and review Claude 4, and I might do a full review video on it, only if it's worthy. Stay tuned for that. Now, in addition to the insane announcements by Google this week, which kind of stole everyone's thunder, actually Microsoft also held their Build event this week with some exciting updates. One of these is called NLWeb. This is a new open source tool by Microsoft which allows you to add an AI-powered chat box to your site. This is like a standard chatbot or search interface where the user can ask questions about your site or product and the AI can answer them or guide them to the right pages. Here's another example used by Eventbrite. So if the user inputs, "I'm in Seattle for a tech conference, are there any geeky events I might enjoy?" Notice that it's actually AI that's kind of analyzing this question and then outputting the relevant results. So this is a free and open source framework that's relatively easy to set up for website owners. Plus, it's model agnostic, so you can plug any model into this framework to power the chatbot. For example, you can use OpenAI's GPT or Google's Gemini or other models. Now, of course, you do need to pay for the usage of these AI models via API, but at least this NLWeb framework itself is free. You can also integrate MCPs to this, which allows the AI to retrieve and process data from other apps and sources. For example, maybe you need to fetch data from a Mongo database or a Notion database. In fact, each NLWeb instance is also an MCP server itself. In other words, other AI agents can also tap into its data like an API. Anyways, like I said, this framework is open source and completely free for you to add to your site. So here's the GitHub repo with all the instructions on how to get started. I'll link to this main release page in the description below if you're interested in reading further. Here's another exciting update from Microsoft. So you might have heard of GitHub Copilot. This is basically an AI coding assistant that lives in VS Code. It's kind of similar to Cursor or Windsurf. Well, this week they announced that GitHub Copilot will have a new coding agent. This is slightly different from the regular GitHub Copilot where you have to kind of work alongside it. However, with this new coding agent, it does everything by itself in the background. It can handle very complex requests that require editing multiple files in your codebase, and then after it's done, it will create a pull request for you to review and merge. By the way, this is exactly how OpenAI's Codex works, which they released last week. This is also the same as Google's Jules, which was also released this week. So in the span of only 2 weeks, we're seeing an evolution from just standard coding assistants in your IDE like Cursor or GitHub Copilot to more autonomous agents, which can just do things by itself in the background, so you can step away and sip your martini on the beach while it does everything for you. All you need to do is come back later and review its pull request and merge it to your project. The nice thing is this agent feature is free to use already, so even on the free plan of GitHub Copilot, this includes 50 agent mode or chat requests per month. And if you want more than that, then you can also pay for higher limits. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to their official blog page on this in the description below. And that sums up all the highlights in AI this week. Let me know in the comments what you think of all of this. Which piece of news was your favorite, and which tool are you most looking forward to trying out? As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.